Welcome back, everyone, to the final ranking season of top 10 prospects for scoutstatline.com of 2023. This is the final one, Ross.
Yep. I think
Fine.
starting with our next episode, Brian, I think we start over at 1. We go 2023-01.
Yeah.
This one's going to be 2022-11.11.
Yeah.
Start over.
So, once again, I am Brian as always, and my little buddy is still with me, Ross R. Jensen. And tonight we are bringing you relief pitchers. And I know what you're all thinking. This is going to be the most boring thing on the planet, but nay, we are going to spice this bad boy up.
What comes next, Brian? What do we do after we finished rankings on all these pods? Our player evals are out there. What's next? What's next for the Scout the Statline podcast?
I think the sky's the limit. I think we have a few people that would like to chime in. I know RFF would love to jump on the pod. You mentioned Kyle Brown wanted to jump on and say some stuff. And then from there, I mean, like I said, the sky's the limit. Maybe we'll try to maybe go a little bit above our means and ask some players and see if we can get somebody on here. Or, maybe it'll just be me ranting about my love for the Tigers and how I'm awful at scouting baseball players. What about you, man? What do you foresee us going towards? What do you want to do?
From the podcast specifically?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Mad Money. I'm up here and I'm like, he's a buy, he's a sell, or something like that. Oh, that's an RFF idea right there. Yeah. Ryan Felix Fernandez. Great idea. I'd love to do that. Put on some funny hats and some suspenders and, hopefully I don't have the inverse Kramer effect going on where everybody I say to buy tanks.
Yeah. Maybe we'll put the chalkboard, like we were discussing, maybe the chalkboard needs to go up right here and I'll have sticky notes where I can just throw names at it and be like, he's next.
Yeah, no, I think we could have some fun episodes. I think we need to bring on some other guests. We need some new voices in here. People are sick of hearing our opinions and only our opinions. So let's get in some fresh voices so we can have some healthy debates.
Do you have beer tonight, Ross?
I do have beer, yeah.
I got beer too, man.
I wouldn't forget about beer. Tonight I went with, this is Firestone Mind Haze IPA. It's a hazy IPA. Firestone Walker Brewing Company out of Paso Robles, California. This is a semi-regular drinker for me. I really like it. It's very smooth. It's a really good hazy IPA. Fairly strong, not real strong. It's 6.2%, but really good beer. Firestone Walker. I've been to their brewery before too, and it's a really cool brewery. Here's the pour. Really cool brewery. And they got some great beers.
That looks like my kind of beer.
Very nice. Definitely recommend it. Check it out. It's a great drinker for a hazy IPA.
Okay, cool.
What do you got? Let's hear this.
Tonight is a different kind of beer. I'm not one to do a lot of flavors in my beer, but tonight I'm going to do something that is Northwestern. Maybe a lot of people that listen to the pod outside of the Northwest region maybe don't even know about the Huckleberry. So it's Huckleberry Hefeweizen, and it's Halo. So it's Lewis and Clark Brewing. The reason I chose this beer is because Huckleberry is one of my favorite things on the planet. I love Huckleberry, And not a lot of people have ever had it. A little known unfact, not only is it delicious, they are one of the few species that can still grow on Mount St. Helens after it blew up.
Hmm.
Here it is. Huckleberry Hefeweizen.
Oh yeah, very nice.
This beer tastes just like huckleberry. It's delicious.
Awesome. Good. Cool.
Yeah. But with that, a couple points while we go through these relievers is I'm going to be really, really, really high on Ks per nine and really, really, really high on whip. My third thing that I'm going to touch on is trajectory towards the Major League Ball Club. Is there an opening? Let's get into it. That's Don. Number 10. Number 10 on Scout the Stat Lines relief pitchers. His name is Zach Kelly. He's with the Boston Red Sox. And he is 6'3", 205 pounds, and he is 27 years old. Ross, will you tell us a little bit about Zach Kelly?
I think for our relievers, we're going to do a lot more flybys than we are on deep dives. But I do want to say this. We are going to find a lot more of those older guys when we're diving into these guys. So I'm going to really just go through the overview of their careers. Zach Kelly in the minors throughout his career has a career 3.07 ERA in 246 innings thrown. He struck out 290 batters in those 246 innings, so 10.6 per nine, while walking 3.4. Good for a 1.252 whip. A little bit on the older end, but that's not as much of a concern when we're talking about relief pitchers. He did make his debut last season, and in just 13 games and 13 and 2/3 innings, he put together a 3.95 ERA. I don't know that we're looking at a closer necessarily here, but he could be a back end of the bullpen guy, a potential setup guy here.
Yeah, and with Kenley Jansen at the Boston Red Sox, this could be a quick promotion. I don't know how much Kenley Jansen's got left. He's been doing it a long time, but Zach Kelly could be waiting in the wings. So this could be a good ad if he showcases himself. So that big deal.
I think one thing that Scout Statline likes about him is he keeps the ball out of the air.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty low fly ball rate.
Zach Kelly clearly has an opening coming in within the next 2 years. He's already 27 years old, so at that point he's already 29. But there is an opening. Moving on, number 9, and we have Jeremiah Estrada. Jeremiah Estrada is 6'1", 185 pounds. He's 24 years old. He is with the Chicago Cubs, and just running through it, the ERA is massively low. Massively low. His career in the minors is 1.94. His whip is 1.13, and his strikeouts per nine is 13.96. So this is hitting every point that I want to see from a reliever in the minors. He is young. He's on a really young ball club anyways, so that's a big deal because he can grow up with the Cubs just as, you know, they're moving through the ranks as well. I can't say that he's completely blocked. Like there's nobody that I'm stunned by in the Cubs relievers. Am I wrong on this?
Nope, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have in Estrada?
Estrada's probably one of my favorite names on this list.
Yeah.
If I'm being totally honest, you're right. His numbers in the minor leagues were pretty remarkable. His last year across three levels, high A, double A, triple A. He had in 48 and a third innings pitched a 1.3 ERA and struck out 14 and a half people per 9 innings. And he did make his debut last year at age 23. And in just 5 2/3 innings, he had a 3.18 ERA. So he kept that pretty low despite walking too many people, 4.8 per 9. But he also struck out 12.7 per 9. So that whip was way too high, but it's a small sample and a pretty solid debut overall. I think there's a lot of promise here. The walk rate is the one thing to keep an eye on because that can ruin a reliever.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And he will not be 25 until August. So very young guy and might be in the pros all year long, which I would love to see. I think he will be. Not blocked. Once again, not blocked in the Cubs system. Moving on to number 8, Nick Vespi with the Baltimore Orioles. He is 6'3", 215 pounds. He's 27 years old. He was selected in the 2015 draft, round number 18, pick 553 overall out of Palm Beach State, Florida. What do you got on Mr. Vespi?
Okay, so aggregate on his career, 348 2/3 innings pitched, so quite a few innings under his belt. Overall, he holds a 2.79 ERA, striking out just over 10 per 9. And his walk rate is only 2.7 walks per 9, good for a 1.073 whip. Going back to 2021, he was entering the highest levels in the minor leagues. He struggled a little bit at AAA. And again, walking batters seemed like it was an issue for him. But then this year in AAA, found another level. And he didn't allow a single earned run in 28 2/3 innings. Zero ERA with a 0.593 whip. Pretty incredible. He did make his debut. One thing that's fun about this list is a lot of these guys have seen major league time. So in his short stint there, well, maybe not even too short, in 26 1/3 innings, he put together a 4.1 ERA, and he struck out almost 10 per 9. The walk rate remained pretty low. He was allowing some hits. His whip was 1.405. So I think there's potential. Now we're talking about the Orioles, and it looks like Felix Bautista is the man there. And then there's Dylan Tate for the setup role. So he's going to have to battle to get in there. But we're talking about relievers, and injuries happen all the time. And if they do, he's got a chance to secure back end of the bullpen role.
Yep. Dylan Tate did get hurt. So Dylan Tate's going to probably miss the first month and a half, maybe 2 months. It looks like Baltimore probably tried Vespi out as a starter in 2019. That got squashed with the lost season of 2020. I would say that this is a perfect place for Mr. Vespi. Young ball club coming up through the ranks. He's got plenty of time to sit in the bullpen and figure out his way through. The stats are backing him on being a good relief pitcher. Obviously, tough to say with relievers. And we're going to say this a lot throughout the podcast tonight. It's really tough to say how these guys can hold up in a relief pitching role. I like him. I like him quite a bit.
Yep. There's some potential there, no doubt.
Yep. Definitely a guy, and that's going to be another thing that we're probably going to say quite a bit is these are keep an eye on these guys. They're going to be on the waiver wire. Nobody's going to own these guys. But when they get the call up, you can throw them in there, see what they got as a reliever. And then when the save opportunities and the big blow up happens, cool. Moving on, Mr. Andrew Nardi with the Miami Marlins. He's 6'3", 215 pounds, 24 years old. He was drafted by the Marlins in round 16 of the 2019 draft at 471 overall out of Arizona. Mr. Nardi's stats read as 122.2 innings pitched. His ERA is sitting at 2.64. He's got 14 saves out of 19 save opportunities. His whip is 1.08. Great place to have a whip. And his strikeout per nine is 12.99. This would be somebody that I am going to be all over as soon as he has a full-time gig. I want to tell everybody that is going to listen to this that Andrew Nardi is going to have a really solid place in a young Miami Marlins team that isn't blocked, and he's had a great career so far.
In 2022 in particular, 2.29 ERA in 51 innings. Pretty good. He really turned it up that last year, AA and AAA. He did get a taste of the major leagues, 14 2/3 innings, and he got blown up. So
Yep.
It might have been a little early for him, and his problem was just out of control. He was just out of control.
Yeah.
He was walking 8.6 batters per 9 innings. So he's shown some erratic control in the past, so that's something he's going to have to keep under wraps. And it looks like his last 2 years in the minor leagues, he did a really good job with that. So he'll just have to get back in that groove. This happens a lot with young players, pitchers in particular. They come up, they get the jitters, they're nervous, they're overthrown, whatever it might be. They lose a little bit of that control that they've worked really hard to gain. And we could be seeing some of that from Andrew Nardi. But I do agree. I think a back end role looks like it's in his future, and he's a guy that you want to nab.
Yeah. At least put on the watch list.
Yep.
All right. Jumping to the next one, we have Mr. Chase Lee. And Chase Lee is 6 foot, a slender 170 pounds. He's 24 years old. He got drafted in 2021 by the Texas Rangers, round 6. Pick 164 out of College, Alabama. Break it down, Ross.
Okay, Chase Lee. Now, this one's probably going to take a little bit of explanation.
Yeah.
Because in 73 and a third innings, his ERA is quite a bit higher than the other guys that we've already touched on at 3.93. The strikeout rate remains healthy at 12.4 strikeouts per 9, similar to a lot of these other guys. And he's got a low walk rate at 2.7 walks per 9. In college, I want to go back a little bit to his time in Alabama. He was a reliever there as well. Pretty lights out, 1.87 career ERA there. So he's got a long track record of effectiveness. But what Statline is seeing specific to his xFIP, which is what our ranking is based off of, projected xFIP, is that he keeps the ball out of the air. That's a huge factor here. So the fly ball rate is very low. And they're saying that usually is going to lead to less home runs. It's going to keep that ERA down. We'll see if that turns out to be true with him. There is a gap between his scaled ERA. I say scaled as in that's what it would look like if we were to just take it and say, with the gains that players get, what does it look like by the time that they peak? There's a difference here, pretty stark difference. 4.19 is what they're saying for his ERA. But his xFIP, expected fielding independent pitching, is just 3.37. So they're saying underlying variables there suggesting his ERA should be lower.
Bad luck.
Bad luck. Yeah. we're talking about 73 and a third innings pitched. It's not an insignificant sample, but it's not really large either. So it's possible that there's luck involved there. I mean, we see it in the major leagues all the time, right? You could have a guy that's throwing 220 innings. One year he's got a 5 ERA. The next year he's got a 2.5. So it happens.
Really like the counting stats with Chase Lee. In 2022, he had 10 holds and 7 out of 7 save opportunities.
One more thing I want to point out regarding the projections. One other factor on here is home runs allowed per 650 batters faced. And out of everybody on the list that we're going to cover tonight, he's got the lowest. So as I was saying, he keeps the ball out of the air. He's not allowing home runs. That's a factor when you're a reliever and you are going to get a small sample worth of, I don't know, batters faced, innings pitched. It's definitely a factor. You allow some home runs and your ERA is going to balloon.
Yep. The reason I wanted to highlight the holds is because a hold is something very interesting to me. He is able to hand the ball off to the next person. And with a minor leaguer, I think that's pretty important, especially with 10 of them. 10 in 2022 is important to me in the minors. And then not blowing a save opportunity too. Moving on, we are going to Cole Waits, and he is with the San Francisco Giants. He's 24 years old. He's 6'3", 180 pounds. He is out of West Alabama College. He was drafted in 2019 by the Giants in round 18, overall 536. And Mr. Cole Waits' stats in the minors, sitting as it is right now, he had a rough go in his rookie year. So a little bit ballooned, but his career looks as 2.74 ERA in 72.1 innings pitched. He struck out 135 batters. He's had 11 save opportunities. He's got 10 holds, and his whip is 1.16 or 1.16, and his K per 9 is 16.80. His stats in 2021, his strikeout per 9 was 20.93. So this is a heavy strikeout reliever. 20.93, almost 21 batters per 9 he was striking out. What do you think, Ross?
That's a lot of strikeouts. 16.8 through his career, 16.4 in 2022, spread across high A, double A, and triple A. Yeah, that's a lot of strikeouts. And he is, out of everyone on this list, and maybe close to everyone out of all relievers, he has the highest peak projected strikeout rate of any reliever.
Yeah. Coming
in at 33.1%. So, yeah, strikeout machine. He did debut in 2022, and a very small sample. He wasn't allowing a lot of runs, but he was kind of getting hit around. He wasn't controlling his pitches very well. He walked 6.4 per 9. That's definitely something to keep an eye on because he does have an elevated walk rate throughout his career. Throughout the leagues, it's at 5.1 per 9. So we talked about with the starting pitchers, wildly effective. Sometimes as a reliever, you can get away with that a little bit more. So sometimes the guys that can't quite cut it as starting pitchers because they're walking too many batters will find success in a relief role. That, maybe that's the case with Waits. Interestingly enough, he was a starter in college at West Alabama, and he wasn't all that effective.
Yeah.
He struck out a lot of guys there too, but he was walking, it looks like, through his career almost 6 per 9. It's a lot of walks. So that's something, if he can harness that, you're looking at a lockdown closer. But that's also the kind of walk rates that can destroy a guy too.
He's not giving up. He's not giving up runs either. That's the cool thing is, yeah, maybe he walks a guy here, but he's striking the next guy out. Like he's getting out of jams. He's getting out of jams really well.
I see this as a risk reward play.
Yeah.
But again, as a reliever, you can get away with probably just waiting to see if he figures it out. Once he does, once you get a sniff of that, then you're on this guy.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about a really deep league, especially where relievers are valued.
Yeah.
Then you'll see that this guy might already be owned.
He did blow 3 save opportunities in 2022. No, it's notable. Can't blow those saves, man. But keep striking guys out. That's awesome.
Yeah. Really interesting one.
So jumping in number 4, we have Eric Orzi. And he is 6'4", 195 pounds. He's 25 years old. He got drafted in 2020 by the New York Mets in round 5, overall pick 150 out of college, New Orleans. And he's got some interesting stuff. Once again, relievers are really hard to look at, but I think he's got a pretty good profile of what you guys want to see. Ross, will you break it down just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. He's 25 years old now. Eric Orzi. I mean, it's almost the opposite of the guy that we just talked about, and probably more similar to Andrew Nardi, where he's in his minor league career, he's allowed some runs to get through. Man, 2022 runs allowed per 9 innings, almost 6. His ERA was 4.83. It's quite a bit higher in 50 and a third innings. It's not like it was a small sample. Scout the stat line is chalking a lot of this up to some bad fortune. He does, his other ratios are pretty solid. He strikes out 12.3 per 9. He only throughout his career has walked 2.5 batters per 9 innings. Scout the stat line is chalking some of this up to some bad luck. And his xFIP is coming in at a projected peak of 3.72.
As I stated, an interesting case because his whip looks good. His K per 9 looked good, but then his ERA is just trash. That's what's really frustrating about a reliever. Like he's doing all the right things except for that very moment when he gets shellacked. And that's exactly what we're seeing in this profile right now. So I think he's interesting. I really do, especially since he's debuting on STS as the number 4 relief pitcher of 2022 or 2023. I just don't see it. I don't understand why it's there. But as you stated, it sounds like a little bit about bad luck.
So he did allow 11 home runs in 50 and a thirds innings pitched in 2022. Yeah, you scale that to 200 innings pitched, 44 home runs allowed. That's a lot of home runs allowed.
Yeah.
Now, would he actually allow that many home runs over the next 150 innings pitched? I don't know, but in 2021, in almost the same amount of innings pitched, he only allowed 5. So they're saying he got touched up. Some people made some strong contact against him that maybe normally wouldn't have. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. We're going to have to wait and see on this one. But if so, that's the culprit. That's what they're seeing. Though personally, I'm with you. I probably wouldn't have him in my top 10 for relievers. There's other guys out there that are interesting with smaller samples that I'd probably move up there.
Moving on, number 3, already to number 3. We have a 21-year-old, and he was drafted in 2019 by the Texas Rangers in round 18, pick 535 overall, out of high school North Atlanta, Georgia, and he goes by the name of Mark Church. Mark Church is another fun one for me. He's interesting as he strikes out 14.97 in his K per nines through 2 seasons, and he only his WHIP is only 1.18. Once again, his ERA is at 4.24, so he's getting touched up a little bit. He's converted 8 out of 11 save opportunities and has 6 holds. I think the kid's just growing up. I mean, he's only 21 years old, and he's with the Texas Rangers. This could be somebody to keep your eye on and see if he can kind of calm down what's going on. Is everything kind of pointing towards that direction, Ross?
Yeah, the underlying data is great.
Yeah.
Very high strikeout rate, very low walk rate throughout his career. I don't know what it is with this guy, but I know his name was popping up really high for a long time. I think he was lights out for most of the year. And then he just got shelled,
Yeah.
maybe fatigue potentially.
Yeah.
Could be a lot of things. He's still just 21 years old. So he's young. And he's, it looks to me like, okay, so he was at high A and he was at double A in 2022. And double A, he just got shelled.
Yeah.
That's where all of his bad numbers come from. At high A, he had a 2.9 ERA and was striking out over 15 per 9, hardly walking anyone. So it was just a different ball game. Maybe he got challenged. Maybe there was some fatigue in there by that time in the season. I think this is probably one of the top guys that you want to target for relief pitchers, at least for your watch list.
Yeah, he's not a big guy yet. He's only 189 pounds, and this could be a little bit backdated, but you throw 20 pounds on him, and he can start getting some more innings in him and not having those blow-ups. That's another thing about relievers. I mean, 1 inning of a grand slam, and your ERA is gone for the whole season. Like,
Well,
that's all it takes is 1 grand slam, man.
We were just talking with Orzi, the home run rate, and it looks like Mark Church is just as bad or maybe worse. He allowed 11 home runs as well, same as Orzi, but less innings pitched. So his home run rate is pretty high. It's higher than Orzi's, highest on this list. So he's gonna have to keep the ball in the ballpark.
You throw that 1 meatball across the plate, and man, it's your ERA is toast. Everything else looks great, but that 1 meatball just smoked you.
Yep. Similar to Orzi and Tenardi, projected peak ERA is way too high, 5.3, but his projected expected fielding independent pitching is 3.11. Stark difference.
Yeah. Jumping into the next one has got to be one of the best names in all of the major leagues. And I have kind of a love for names. I call it the Hall of Fame name game. And this guy would top the list. And his name is Phoenix Sanders. And he is with the AAA affiliate for the Baltimore Orioles. He was drafted in 2017 by the Tampa Bay Rays, round 10, picked 289 overall out of College South Florida. God, that's a great name, Ross. What do you think?
I think the Rays are great at developing relievers. Yeah. And they moved him to Baltimore, or he moved to Baltimore in 2022. But over his career, and we're talking about now a 27-year-old,
Yeah.
he has a career 3.46 ERA in 260 innings pitched. So we've got a pretty healthy sample size. 315 strikeouts, almost 11 per nine, and a walk per nine rate of 2.5. Not too shabby. So another guy that's going to be competing with Vespi and Tate to see if they can fill the shoes of Bautista if he goes down with an injury. But it looks like the Orioles are getting a good stable of young guys that are major league ready to come into the bullpen. And you know what that means? It means that they think they got a window to compete. That's what I think.
They're getting close. Maybe not this year. Getting closer next year.
Yeah.
This would be
solid.
this would be a guy that I'd be very interested in, and he's firmly implanted on my watch list just to see what happens with the rest of the bullpen, to see if there's anything that transpires as far as injuries. Dylan Tate's hurt, and how fast he can move up through there. He's got a really good K per nine. His K per nine is at 10.9 overall, and his whip is at 1.16. So that all makes sense. And then he's got a lower ERA of 3.46. So pretty decent. He converted 15 out of 19 save opportunities in 2019. Everything else is, I think he's been bounced around just a little bit between the majors and minors. So we don't have a full set of what we want to see. But yeah, firmly entrenched in a watch list. I really want to see what else he can do, especially in the major leagues. Phoenix Sanders, great name. All right, we're going to get into number one. Number one overall ranking in Scout the Statline relievers, and going to be the last person we talk about in our ranking season. I'm a little bit like distraught about this. I don't know what else I'm going to do with my nights. It's a big deal. Got a little teary eyed there. Anyways, Kevin Kelly with the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, the Tampa Bay Rays. He's 25 years old. He was drafted in 2019 by the Cleveland Guardians, round 19, overall pick 580 out of James Madison. Let's say this one last time for the ranking season. Ross, would you break it down for us?
We're seeing another Guardians Rays connection here.
They're amazing at finding it, man. They're amazing at building their rosters.
Yeah. There's a glut of guys.
Pete Fairbanks.
In the Rays organization. I mean, you know, they like to use that carousel, so maybe he'll get some save opportunities, but yeah, they got a lot of good relievers in that system.
It might be an opener.
So Kevin Kelly, let me go through his career real quick. In 130 and 2/3 innings pitched throughout his career, he's got a 3.17 ERA. He's struck out 181 batters, good for 12.5 per nine. And he's only walked 2.2 per nine. Really low walk rate. That's great. What Scout the Statline is seeing in him is he's got an extremely low fly ball rate. He doesn't allow a lot of home runs. He's keeping the ball in the ballpark. It's going to be important for those late innings. They really like him. They see him here in the current balancing of having, and keep in mind, relatively new the pitching rankings are, so there might be some rebalancing coming over time. But they see him with the current balancing as being the best reliever relieving prospect in the game. And we'll probably see Kevin Kelly in the major leagues in 2023.
Yeah.
There you have it.
So yeah, he's converted 13 out of 18 save opportunities, and he has 10 holds. So he knows how to do it.
Yep.
And all the statistics show that he's going to be a good reliever. And Tampa Bay, they know what they're doing. Cleveland Guardians, they know what they're doing. So I have no reason to believe that this isn't going to be a really good reliever. Firmly entrenched on a watch list. These are not guys that you want to go out and get, like, hey, go get them. No. These are guys you just keep an eye out for them. If they're on your waiver wire list and still have prospect status, which they all should, throw them on your minor league roster. Why not? It's not going to hurt you.
Yep. So we finished our top 10. We finished ranking season.
Yep.
But before we finish this episode, I do want to talk about a couple guys that did not make our list, but I think are worth mentioning. I think are worth putting on a watch list. If you're in a really deep league, relieving is important. So I'm gonna throw out their names. Yeri De Los Santos, 24 years old with the Pirates. Alec Jacob, 24 years old with the Padres. RJ Dabovich, 23 years old with the Giants. I'll also throw on Eric Torres, 22 years old with the LA Angels. I think these are all guys that you probably want to put on that list to watch. There's going to be a lot of variability, especially when it comes to relievers, because their samples are so small. As you were saying, they allow a flurry of home runs. Their entire trajectory has changed in a statistical analysis like this. So I want to throw out some more names just so people can keep an eye on.
Yeah.
It's more churn-based than your other positions oftentimes.
So it's very important to have really good relievers. And I hope we gave you guys a good taste of that tonight. So with that is the ranking season. That is the end of the ranking season. And now we're going to have some fun. We're going to have a little bit of fun. The rest of the season, we're going to be talking about, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't even know yet. I'm going to figure it out, though. I'm excited. You excited?
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Heck yeah.
Hope everybody else is excited. As always, I am Brian. That is RJ. We're going to talk to you guys real soon.
All right. See you guys.